Is that right?
Good morning. My name is Tina Eisenberg. I'm the founder of CreativeMornings and New York City chapter host, and I'm so happy you all made time to be here today. I also want to welcome the live stream folks that are tuning in. We had a little bit of an issue with the live stream, so Kyle is on it, but live stream people just be patient with us. But thank you for being here. I am welcoming you from the ancestral land of the Lenape people, and I'm welcoming you from this stunning venue. I don't think we've ever had a breakfast venue that was that glamorous than today. We're 40 years old. Wondering where we are. We're at the National Arts Club. And Mitch, who just came and helped me, he is the reason I'm here. He reached out to us. I mean, this is great. So many people come up to me and say, how do you like this? Mitch came to us and said, do you want to come here? That's a dream. An organization. Mitch, we've been missing that she has more to do. But so Mitch, thank you so much for the National Arts Club is a non-profit with a mission to foster and promote public interest in the arts and to educate the American people in the fine arts. And I encourage you to look at their calendar. There's so many great events. They have over 150 annual events happening here, and from exhibitions like here right now to theatrical and musical performances. It's actually really rich. It's impressive. Readings, lectures, and as I was deep diving into the calendar last night, I guess I'm a bit of an architecture nerd. If anyone here, I have to put a chance in Naxos and architecture nerds unit. They have an event, it's a virtual event on October 19th. Signed up, and I made a donation because of it. Any event is expensive, guys. With Hillary Lewis, she's the chief curator and the director of the Glass House, and she's written multiple books about him. She's going to just sort of deep dive a bit and the amazing humor that he was. So thank you, National Arts. So you're wondering, how is this possible? Like, how are these events free? Because it's because we have generous hosts like the National Arts Club that invite us in, and then we have local partners that sponsor breakfast, so you can be caffeinated and have something to eat. And I want to quickly thank them. So one of them is Harvest, just like us, they're a New York City-based company. They're a favorite time tracking company. So if you do time tracking for your job, I would highly recommend you check them out. But beyond that, they also help you with time management and offer some really beautiful resources around that topic. For example, they just recently released a pricing guide to help you figure out how much to charge for your projects, which I used to run my own design studio. That was hard. So in follow-up email, you'll see the link to that. And then I want to thank our newish local partner, NPB, for their support. They make it super easy to sell and buy used photography and video equipment. Raise your hand if you have some old lenses and stuff sitting in a drawer. Go to NPB. And they also have a lot of really interesting content on their site. And this one really stood out to me. It's a beginner's guide to composition. If you want to level up your photography, NPB is your friend. So thank you. And Maggie, thank you for being here. If you want to meet someone from NPB, Maggie, raise your hand. She's right there. All right. At every event, we read our manifesto. It sort of sets the tone and reminds us all for why we're doing what we're doing. And every month we have a special human reading. And today, this special human is my friend Tony Leroy, and he's going to come up and do us the honor of reading the manifesto.
Today's special guest is everyone is creative. Creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We are here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections and learning from others in hugs and high fives. We bring together people who are driven by passion, purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome.
So Creative Mornings started here in New York, actually exactly 14 years ago next Tuesday. And it has spread organically around the world. And each dot on this map represents a Creative Mornings chapter. Today, I want to send an extra dose of love and awareness to our 3 chapters in Ukraine and our 6 chapters in Iran. Our heart goes out to them and the injustices that so many of our community members are facing. What is happening in Ukraine and in Iran is about all of us. It's about basic human rights. It's about freedom. It's about justice. It's about dignity. And all of those dots represent groups of volunteers who generously and selflessly spend time organizing local events to gather their local communities. And what they do matters. You showing up here matters. Us realizing we're all connected matters. While so many individual wonderful humans can contribute to Creative Mornings every month, this organization wouldn't be what it is today if it wasn't for the unwavering, unstoppable support and generosity of very few specific humans. And one of them is the co-founder of MailChimp, Patricia, I'm getting all emotional, who reached out to me when we were one chapter here in New York, 4 months old, and just literally said, how can I support you? He has always believed in the importance of meeting up, of the creative community meeting up. So much that MailChimp has been our partner for 14 years straight. Without MailChimp, we would not be the world's largest face-to-face creative community. During the pandemic, other global partners were not able to continue with their support, but MailChimp stuck with us. It is a deeply moving experience to experience such unwavering loyalty. In case you're not familiar with MailChimp, they started as a newsletter service and are now a far-reaching marketing platform run by fine, generous humans. So I just want to say thank you, MailChimp, for making this all happen. All right. My favorite thing, stand up bit. I'm going to do it quickly because we're bulldozing into the time that we're going to take from Patricia. Okay, my favorite game. If I say a sentence that applies to you, please stand up. If you can't stand up, just raise your arm. Stand up if you're not a morning person, but you are here. I applaud you all. I really do. Stand up if this is your first Creative Mornings event. Wow, welcome. So great to be here. We're so happy you found us. Stand up if you embrace sweater weather like me. Oh, look at my cold people. Stand up if the ocean is your happy place. So there's a crossover, a lot of sweater weather. Stand up if the ocean scares you. Thank you for your honesty. And last one, stand up if you have a morning ritual of any kind. Wow, Patricia, these are your people. Thank you so much for playing along. I promise I'm gonna get more relaxed now. Every month we have a global theme that is picked by one particular chapter, and then all the chapters around the world pick a speaker to this statement. This month, the global theme is ethos, and it's picked by our Asheville chapter, and it was illustrated by Colin Sutherland. I am so incredibly excited to introduce today's speaker, who also happens to be one of my dearest friends. Patricia is one of the most thoughtful, gentle, big-hearted humans I know. I have witnessed her transform her life over the past few years with an unmatched intentionality and intuitiveness. I always say that our life is our biggest design project, and watching Patricia design her life over the past few years, the way she did is one of the most beautiful examples of my hypothesis right there. Patricia is a year-round ocean swimmer, a water practitioner, sensory immersion artist, and the creator of RewildRestore. Out of water, Patricia is an award-winning brand creator with a long, impressive career in the agency world, where she has garnered numerous awards for crafting the narratives of the world's largest and most loved brands. And I am thrilled that she decided to take on the challenge of telling us her story today. And I want you to make Patricia feel really welcome. I want you to make her feel as if she's walking into a warm, gentle Mediterranean ocean.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Patricia Garcia-Gomez, and Tina, thank you. I appreciate the warmth. And it's such an honor to be here in the universe of Creative Mornings. And the story that I'm telling you today is the first time actually that I stood up for people and told it. So thank you for being here. As Tina mentioned, I'm a former creative director and strategist. And now I live on the North Fork of Long Island. And this is the ocean that I swim in every day. And it's really like a no matter what commitment to the ocean every day. And the person that you see swimming here is actually my neighbor, Walter. And he's been swimming in that sea every day since he was a kid, and he's now 94. He's incredible when he's at the beach. It's a really, really special moment. But before I was here, I was deeply rooted in my Manhattan life. I was at a creative agency. It was deadline driven. It was really hectic. And I'm going to tell you how I got from that version of me to the water version of me. But before I do that, I'd like to take you into the water with me, and it's going to be my morning swim. My morning swim is the first thing I do every day, and I plan off today, so I'm taking you in with me. And it looked like a lot of you had connections to water, feel strongly about it, and some of you also are afraid of it, or used to be. And it's totally great. It's so wonderful. So water is a quality, so I'm going to ask you to listen beyond the story of water as well. So now I'm going to take you into the water with me. And I'm going to ask you to maybe not look at the screen anymore, just gently close your eyes. And we take 2 deep breaths together. Inhale and exhale. Inhale. And maybe you have a favorite water that you love. You can bring that in. Fill up the water and just listen and see if you can bring your attention to the nearest, the closest sound of the water nearby. And once you have that, see if you can follow that sound as far away as possible. And notice that water has a far away quality. And with as little mind as possible, see if there's a quality of the water that is present for you. Like, is it crisp? Round? Is it soft? Heavy? Do you sense a temperature? And whatever comes up for you, just hold that. We'll take 2 more breaths together. So we inhale. Exhale. 1 more breath. I'm going to ask everybody to open their eyes. Come back into the room. Thank you for going into the water with me. I see water as an invitation into a relationship, not only with the sea, but in a relationship with yourself and ceremony and nature. As a creative, it's also where I source a lot of my ideas from. It's sort of my teacher and my muse. And as creatives, we all live in a world of concepts. It's what we get paid for, which concepts endlessly. But there can be a thing of too much concept or too much definition, especially when it comes to who we are as people. And the thing that makes water different than any other element is that you actually have to get inside of it. You don't climb it. You don't stand on top of it. You literally have to go inside. Five years ago, I was a partner in a creative agency here in Manhattan. And as Tina mentioned, I worked really hard to get there, and it was really good. I won numerous awards. It was a successful career. And I had this feeling one day, and I really remembered, I was like, oh, I'm really comfortable. And not comfortable like I've made it, but comfortable as in like, I'm really good at what I do. I figured this part out. And there was just I noticed there was a tiny bit of discomfort to that comfort. And then someone up there must have been listening, because all of a sudden everything changed. And the agency as I knew it was not going to be anymore. And I had 6 weeks to wrap it all up. And then it was what next? And so there was an initial shock. and then also an exhale. And it was a big moment for me because I was 50 at the time. And if you talk to anybody about career and read anything about ageism, this is not a time that you free fall in your career. It's the time when you're like at your peak and it's at your harvest. So I was at a crossroads and I had choices. I had the one choice is I continue doing the same thing I've been doing for the 10 years, the same agency. I could continue with some pieces of the business, or I could pursue something entirely new. And when I stopped to think about like the person I wanted to be in 20 years, as vague as that notion was, because I didn't know, but I knew that if I kept doing the thing that I was doing in the same way that I was doing, I wasn't going to be where I wanted to be. And I was really clear on that. The other thing I was really clear on is what I really wanted more than anything was to get healthy and to be by the water and to get my own thoughts and inner stirrings back again. I figured if I can do that, then maybe I'll know what's next. So I created a pause. I gave myself 1 month, like a month without a project. You know, I'm very New York based, so usually when I do something, it always has a project and a deadline and something I'm going to create. This time I said, don't worry about that, just go, make the break. And what I was really craving was like beauty and nature and sleep and silence. So I gave myself a budget and I cleared it with everybody I'm close to in my life. I paid my bills. And if anybody's at this moment in their life, I promise you it takes much less than you think. I didn't have a lot of resources to grab and go, but I just really wanted to be there. And there for me was here. Here in these waters, this is the Aegean Sea, and it's literally on the island of Naxos, and that's about a 10-hour ferry from Athens. And it's in the island of the Cyclades. So the Cyclades are a group of islands. Cyclades in Greek means circle. So it's a circle of islands that the Greeks imagined as circling the temple of Apollo. So it's beautiful, and you would think like it's beautiful, so everything has to be fun all the time, and it was fun, but also it was disorienting because my step off point was I left everything I knew, all the structure I knew, and then I'm in a new life and I'm in new waters, literally. So what I did to stabilize myself is I gave myself a ritual. So I gave myself a day ritual and I gave myself a water ritual. So I went to the water every morning where I was staying. I would walk to the water. And this was my ritual. I gave myself a count of 100 at the beginning, just 100 strokes. And on my first day, that was a lot, actually. I was really proud of myself. And then the promise I made to myself is all you have to do is every day that you show up, you have to do better than the day before. And I kind of softly said, and make sure that you always round it up to 100, because that was like 101 doesn't count, like 102. So if you're going to do more than 100, and then I also told myself that what I needed to do was just pay attention, like really be there, be in the environment, soak up the beauty, soak up this place that I don't have in my everyday life. And then what started to happen is that I would go in, it was 100, then 100 became 200, and then 200 became 300, 300 became 500, became 800, 1,000, and then it was like, let's go in loops of 100. So it was like 100, 200. And it was happening every time I went to the space, because it was the first thing I did in the morning, the count was taking me out of my head. So the space was a lot friendlier to be in. So it wasn't just like I was swimming to get strong. All of a sudden I was swimming just to like make the space as warm as I could possibly make it, because it felt so good. And then not long after that, I outgrew my original beach. My first beach was a shallow beach. It was safe. I could walk in and I didn't go too deep because I'm traveling by myself. So I don't really know. I had to learn the waters. But as I got more steady with my count, I started to branch out and like step into bigger waters, different beaches. I had the freedom to explore bigger waters. And I found that the count, no matter what water I was in, the count was what was stabilizing me. And that was really powerful because it was putting me in a state of meditation. And then I found that what was happening because I was visiting the water every single day. I don't know if you've seen my octopus teacher. when you see something, visit it every day, you start to have a feeling for it, right? So I noticed that there was an organic new ritual coming, which is I would read the water when I arrived in the morning, like there was a knot, I would read it. And then I brought a lot of books with me, so whatever I was chewing on in my mind, I would also take that in the water with me. And then as I was swimming, that idea, whatever I was working with would fade away. And then it would just be pure space. And then when I would leave, there would be like a silent ending. And then what I noticed is over time, it wasn't just the book idea that was fading away when I was in the water a while. It was like all the story that I brought with me from Manhattan started fading away. I was getting to a clear slate, which was super refreshing. And I remember swimming one day and I thought, I'm really going to miss this when I go home. And then I thought, well, maybe I don't need to miss it. Like, how can I make this part of my everyday life? So I kind of decided in that moment, I want to swim every day. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but this is what I want to do. And because of my life and research, many things going on, in addition to swimming, I decided I wanted a more engaged creative life as well. So if I had one lesson to take away from this moment with the water, I would say that the water asks you to leave your story behind and to leave it behind over and over and over again. And I see people nodding, so if this is resonating with you, especially water lovers, maybe especially not water lovers, I invite you into these questions. Are you listening for what calls you, for the whispers? How do you create spaciousness for what wants to emerge? And where can you add ritual? I'd like to walk you into the water with me again. But this time, imagine that day, there's ice and there's snow and there's wind. And in order to get to the beach, you have to walk a mile through the woods. And as you're walking through the woods, there's ice crunching under your feet and it's really windy. And then you get to the beach and you can see that thin layer of water when the ocean comes in and then comes back out. That part is frozen, so it's icy. And you're standing there. What do? You don't have to go in. Nobody's watching you. It's just you in the water. How many of you would want to go in? We'll take a quick vote, raise some hands.
Watching and be ready to are two different things.
True. But there weren't very many of you. But that's the thing is it's such a natural response not to want to be cold. Like as people, we spend most of our lives trying to get comfortable, and cold is not comfortable. I'll tell you the reason why I started my winter water practice. And the reason why I started it is because when I came back from Greece, I created my own Greece on the North Fork of Long Island, and I kept swimming every day. And my commitment was every day, and it began to mean a lot to me. And when you make a commitment for every day, that means when winter comes, that's part of every day. So I had to ratchet everything up. And I didn't want to stop. I never, ever set out to be a winter swimmer. I just didn't want to stop. So I kept showing up, and I didn't do a lot of research. I didn't set out to conquer it. But this is the power of ritual. When you keep showing up, it actually gets in your body and you miss it. Like when you miss a day, you feel off in some way. But my intention with the winter practice was not to dare nature and not to hack my body, but simply to go a little bit deeper into something that I love. What does it feel like? Usually when you talk about cold water swimming or winter swimming, I just had this happen to me yesterday. The other person goes, oh, no way. And I go, why no way? And they're like, I'm going to die. So it's usually like super cold, no way, I'm going to die. And that's really, it's really normal. In terms of what it really feels like, imagine that if you're in one state and you completely changed to another state, like all in a second. Like when you walk in, it literally, it's bracing, it takes your breath away, and it's a big inhale. You're like, and it like calls you to your senses, and it's just like full on and intense, almost in an overwhelming way. It calls you into this unflinching presence, and then like your mind can say run, and your mind probably will be saying run, but if you slow it all down, you stay with it, at about a minute and a half into it, like everything kind of fades away and gets really quiet. And then it's like somebody turned the world on all of a sudden. Like all of a sudden, you're not in your body, in your head anymore. You're actually like just fully present to sensation. And you're also like, whatever story you had with you that morning, whether it was an argument, a deadline, you know, whatever, something inspiring, all of that goes away too. And like all of a sudden, you're just like no one in this space, fully present to what is. And being no one is actually really addictive. Like it really feels good to be a no one and to just be out in the world. Especially for me, like I'm actually a very anxious person. So if you give me an opportunity to get out of my head, like I'm going to be the first one there. Like for me, it was real training to do it every day. But it's also, it's not just the cold water, it's the fact that it's ocean and you're outside and you're in nature and there are birds and there are rocks and there's wind, and every single day is different. Some days are really hard. You walk there, and I still have this moment. I walk there, I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think so. And you stand there and you're just like, no, I'm going. And then you go, you experience this thing, talk yourself down and slow everything down. And I still carry the ritual from Greece. I would still like, especially when it's hard, breathe to see. I ask for permission. I wait. When it feels right, I take my first step, go in, and then always acknowledge, give a thanks on the way out. And there's actual science behind this. When you are in full sensation, that's any sensation. It can be a breath that you can take right now in your chair. When you're in any sensation fully, it takes you out of your mental mind, and it actually recalibrates your central nervous system. So the more that you do this, the more you're actually changing the chemistry of your body and creating a calmer, newer person, quite literally. And also rituals have a way of changing your emotions. It rewires everything. So if you're showing up every day, you're actually rewiring fear and like shortening that moment of time. And after a while, actually the cold becomes the least interesting part of the whole experience. Like that initial shock is really wonderful, but you want what comes, what you want, when you want what comes after that. So the water that you listened to at the very beginning, that was water at 38 degrees. And so cold water sounds different than summer water. The molecules move more slowly and it's rounder. It has a deeper tone to it. And winter water has taught me that your body can go places that your brain doesn't know yet. And so even though your brain may be firing and saying like you're gonna die, if you slow it down and just keep going, your body will adapt and it can go places. And for me, my winter practice was born during the pandemic. And we all know what that moment was like when everything was uncertain and everything was isolation and everybody was isolated. And my showing up every day was my way of saying, you know, I'm here. I have the ability to create magic, experience magic, and discomfort and magic can coexist. Which reminds me of this really wonderful quote from Georgia. All the frivolities of summer are a lie. Winter is the truth. And it really does feel like that. It really does feel like it. Like Greece is all like fun and it's sensual and it's salty, and then winter it's very confronting, and it's still confronting. But you begin to love the confrontation because you love what's on the other side of it. And for me, like every day when I get up out of the water, what excites me is that there's a potential for something to be revealed in your swim. And it's not every single time, but the fact that it could happen makes it very exciting. And the water is kind of like the zone. It's kind of that liminal space that you go to, that unfamiliar place where all ideas come from and all thoughts come from. And when you're swimming, it's like you're in that place where you don't have to do anything, but your imagination is integrating and remixing everything, and then you get in the flow, and then it clears and ideas pop. And so I know that if anything comes up in my swim, that's the thing I need to do. I'm really clear. Like if it's call your mom, you get out, you call your mom, or whatever it is. Like if it comes up in, that's what you do. So this is a place that you can go and you can bring something to it. You can ask something from it. You can hand over something that you don't want to carry anymore. This is how I relate to the space now. And then as creatives, I think we need to learn to go to this space. Like, how do we create that space to go there and get ideas, focus, and imagine differently? And if I had to distill the one lesson from the water for this period of time for me, it is make friends with liminal space. And I invite you into a few of these invitations. Like, when do you find yourself unflinchingly present? What gets you into sensation and out of mental mind? And what can you commit to 1 year every day? When I first started taking photographs, a dear friend of mine who's also like a master printer, one of the best in the world, said to me, like, don't take any classes for your first year. Just go out in the world, see what you like, see what happens on your film, get to know it before anybody tells you the right or wrong way to take a photo. And that actually changed my entire approach to photography. And I found things in my work that literally are things you're not supposed to do as a photographer. So I'm a big proponent of 1 year every day without a lot of instruction. My winter swimming, I didn't realize it until I was preparing for today, but I followed that. Like my first year was just just show up. And I made a lot of mistakes, and some days I was really cold. But that whole year was just showing up and seeing what happened. And it wasn't until the second year where I but I started to get more skilled and do more research and have a few more things to make me comfortable in the water. Meeting with the willingness to be changed. About a year into my practice, I received a message over Instagram, and it said, I'm a friend of yours. Would you be willing to take me with you? Cold water is the thing that scares me more than anything else in the world. And like up until this point, I was kind of cold water swimming by myself, a few swim buddies, a few mentors that were keeping me in the water. So this was a sense of responsibility, but I felt really drawn to it. So I said yes. And the day we picked was a very cold day. It was probably 38 outside. The water was in the early 40s, and she's not a winter swimmer, so she's going from scratch to this. And we made a plan to meet at my house, and I don't think I realized and how scared she was. I thought it was just like a normal, like, cold water scares me, but she told me afterwards that she spent an hour in my driveway crying and sobbing, so afraid she almost didn't come to my door. And so in order to get from my house to the beach, it's that walk through the woods that we did together a minute ago. It's about a mile walk. It's really cold. It was icy. Ice was crunching. We're on our way, big trees. And I could sense her apprehension. So I thought, well, let me just tell her how it's going to go. Like, we're walking to the water. When we get to the water, I'm going to show you how I get in. I don't have to get in. But with me, I just really wanted to make it clear that even though it was like a big production to get to the water, she could still change her mind if it felt uncomfortable. And then when we got to the water, there's a certain way that you should undress so that you don't get too cold before you go in. So I started working with her and undressing her in a certain order. And I gave her my gloves and my boots and my hat. I even tied my safety buoy around her, making sure to tell her that she wasn't in danger, it's just for visibility. And then we got to the water's edge, and we did our ritual together. My ritual did it together. So we stood there. I said, okay, let's greet the sea in your own way. Whatever makes sense to you, greet the sea. Ask for permission to be here. And then listen for an answer. And if you want to bring anything else in the water with you, feel free to do that. And then when you're ready, we'll take a first step. And then she took her first step, and then she kept going. Like, she really didn't flinch. She was very serious and very focused, but she kept going. And then I started to just call her attention to what was happening in the environment, because I could tell that she was really inside. So I was like, oh, look at the water. See how it's moving from right to left, and that's east to west. And then I would say, do you hear the wind? Do you feel that on your skin? And she'd be nodding. And I would say, like, oh, look at that bird, or look at the horizon. How far can you see into the horizon? And so we went on like this and took a few breaths. And I'm like, oh, did you hear that? And we just breathed together. And now all of a sudden we're up to here in cold water. She hasn't even noticed that she's up to here, right up here. So, and I look at her though, and she's sobbing. And I'm thinking, oh, I wasn't really sure what was behind it. So I said, do you want to do this? Do you want to go all the way in? Do you want to go out? Are you okay? And she said, no, I'm okay. I want to do it. I said, okay, out of 3, let's do it. And she threw hers up, and then we went under and came out. And like, if you could see her face, she was a different human being. She was just like, and she was laughing. Because that's the thing, like, fear is funny, but only afterwards. And that day, as I said, the water was in the low 40s. Usually for a first time plunge, I'd say realistically, most people make it about a minute and a half, maybe 3 minutes max. So the fact that she was in there 10 minutes and was totally fine and really radiant just underscores the power of the body. Like, she was absolutely fine. And there was a real power in going into the water together and having that ceremony. And that primal fear sort of led to, like, on the other side of it was this, like, primal connection. Like, I now consider her a really close friend. This is the only time I've ever seen her, but we write to each other because I feel like we went somewhere together. And then for me, I also had the insight, like, I really liked introducing her to this world. I really liked seeing her transformation. I like walking people into the water. And if I had to distill this experience or into one lesson, that would be like, when you meet in the water, you meet with the willingness to be changed. And it doesn't have to be freezing water. There's something about water. If you call to water, when you meet there, you're meeting in a different place. The questions I would invite us all to keep in mind. Can you name your fear? You know, as a creative, what do you do when you're standing before the thing that scares you the most? And that could be like a white page, it could be a canvas, it could be anything, but do you martyr yourself to it? Do you trust it? Do you just like, oh, no, thank you, and walk away? Like, what is your relationship to fear? Also, are you ready to meet new versions of yourself? So 5 years ago, I took a pause and I was called to the water. And here's where I am now. I founded a company called RewildRestore. And it's experience that takes place in some of my most favorite water on the planet, in the Aegean. It's the oldest center of ceremony in the Cyclades. And we meet here. And the invitation is to step out of your story and into beauty, and retreat not away from the world, but into the world. And we enter the water together. And this is what I'm committed to now. Just really love it. And if I had to take everything and distill it into one thing, I always say pay attention to how you listen. because so much of our world just really depends on how we pay attention to it. Like we all have questions, we all have things that we're curious about, we have things that light us up, and mine is water, yours is something else, and that's for everybody to discover. But if it goes unnoticed, then you're just a little bit less of yourself. But if you show up every day and you have a practice of showing up, you get to be in a dance with that, with those questions. And for me, I'm literally like in a swim with those questions. And it doesn't matter how you go in, you can paint your way into it, sing your way into it. Like Tina, walk your dog into it. Tina discovered a practice when she got her dog. All of a sudden she had to get quiet in the mornings and turn off her cell phone and be present for the dog. It's a practice, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Invitations are everywhere. See what they have to say to you. And leave your story behind over and over and over and over again. I believe in invisible worlds, and I believe we better to tune into them, that there's all kinds of knowledge and intelligence is there for us. Maybe even a new version of yourself that you haven't met yet. And so I gently challenge each one of you to find your water.